So like really represented and right now with like even like the great feeling the Polunchka, like creating master macro and those are still are treatment to not work out. It's definitely my favorite. And I'm also trying like her as well right now realizing that like I'm even telling you that the other share this thing but that basically so the only way for like mapping that basically like I think that is same as like area. I think that basically that element for member that the search element for member of like the fantasy who had taken like the magic the entire magic of Master Macro. So like I'm also trying like that's like how Arya's magic would be like working. I'm also trying like it might be through like an Arya might function as like a container. So like whenever like Arya takes away like the magic from someone like that magic would be stored within Arya. Definitely like, yet like Arya won't be able to use that magic. Like Arya the only magic that Arya would be able he would be having would be like the power to like cancel out like other people's magic, which is never was so like even though the after macros magic would be stored within area and the range would only function as like a container that and that magic of macro within area won't be accessible to area at all. It's definitely my preference. So like I'm considering right now for Polunchka revealing that basically the only way for like not macro to like get back to like magic uh, is to basically for someone to like defeat area that would be the only way. At that point, like the like suppose container effect would be that coming uncontrolled like if areas like suddenly defeated. So then like the magic would be stored back to like micro. It's like one purpose that I think automatically stored back that way to like micro. That's like one purpose that I think all my campus different right now from the stage that which someone needs to like defeat like or defeat like area and then force area to like return back like the magic stored within area of like not macro and that being like the only way for like not macros to be able to like get back in touch. And I was it would totally be able to restore back through a remote manner, settling of the neighbors. And like Arya doesn't would need to be on like the very same exact nearby master macro for like the magic to be so it's also definitely my best way ever to. So like I was very interested that I'm kind of sticking to as for like how exactly areas like magic would be working on the different area either might be able to like cancel out like magic of like multiple results at like the same time. So definitely my preference as long as like the whole container like there will be like container like thing going on for like area. Like I'm also bring like once like the cat like if one whenever like area cancels out like the match of any person like basically that magic would be like stored within that within areas that limit as well. So like that container would be having its like limit. So like once like the magic will be like fully reaching the magic that area would be canceling out like would be like stored within area reaching that that limit like at that point I'm also bring area would have to like empty out like all that magic that would be contained within. And at that point, if area empties out all that magic, like when bring it will be like working in a different manner where like once like area would be emptying out like all that magic contained within an area, then that magic would not would be totally be lost and won't be able to be restorable for like the people who have lost that magic to areas. So also that the reimbursement that has to go. That's like one person that I know right. And if that's the case, then I'm going to like since like master macro like so extremely powerful like I'm going to maybe like canceling out like master macro magic alone like might have fully filled up like the container like thing of like area and like areas like storage capabilities might be only at its like maximum after like taking away not the matter of valuable specific level service. So like that's like the possibility that you're going to bring up maybe for like area to not be able to like simultaneously cancel out magic of other people. Like maybe like for once like area can serve like the match of one person like then like a different for like area to like once again like cancel out like the magic of like another person like maybe area would have to like empty out like the magic contained with stored within him to like once again and empty that out for him to like once again use his magic is delivered with everything. But that even while this I'm going to putting like one of these two possibilities to working with the other case, then I'm going to bring Arya will be also having like the power to instead of emptying also to like restore back and give back like the magic from like the first person. Arya would have chance it out like the magic from which also the same as the so like I'm going to bring initially Jose and like the element for like coming out from that truth like the scenario that I was doing. As last film, the only thing that like he has finally got away and saved the DC like at that point I was different actually Jose and like the element for like this so that chasing after that too. And I was bring like the whole I'm bringing initially for like most likely a national versus like maybe Jose fight. And also only being or and together. And at that point, I was bringing Lucy as well, doing the like giving her absolute everything to like fight back. Yeah, like just combines like not doing enough. And I was bringing to get that at that situation that when where like natural will be like only dictated by like the element for as well as like so there will be like the point when I'm going to pertain and that and great to like show up. Because like I'm going to bring up find out only at that point feeling like an athlete and I think like that feel like an athlete go off on his own with same losing. So like I'm going to bring like a where not only told the remaining still members to like get enough macro to like Polunchka to save macro while some might have decided to like go after like that is definitely for better fabric especially when it's liver so like I'm going to bring Gray as well might have decided to like go along with like that liver with so like some might have told Gray to that to be a state of for Gray to like head off with like the remaining heritage still that to like basically save macro but like I'm going to bring Gray might have been adamant about like wanting to like save this so like I'm going to bring Arsan Gray right now would be on their way. It's like also like this Michael reference. So like I know bring like at that point or certainly Arsan and Gray to like make it clear that the different location one like and that's when you would have almost been like fully repeated. It's never been so like at that point I'm also like seeing Arsan Gray like increasing that like now being like increasing like that confidence and moral of like that when those like the scenario where I'm so like them the squad role like the Barca will be to great and happy and basically fighting back against the element for and those in like was another that I was bringing but like I was bringing then like I was bringing then like it's still five as a score like I was bringing still basically and also it is like the element four are like we did only 12 and 2 like the senior members of like the heritage like I was bringing especially because of that, like I'm going to bring once again, like them being overpowered by like the team of like the element four and Jose is also like the scenario that I was saying. And that would be when precisely I'm going to bring that and lack of Mr. Lack of Mr. and like the remaining senior members of like the heritage would be only making that first right and comes at that point. So definitely on the difference and it would only lack of speed, it's only due to lack of certain that would be only due to lack of favorite role that he would be having in like second floor of the therapist it would be that would have been totally destroyed in that attack by the parents. So like about to bring super revenge for that lack when he like for the one last so yeah but then was bring as for like the remaining senior members of like the church ignoring Mr. Toya but I was like a lack of so that conversation at that point, we were searching because of them wanting to get revenge because like they would be only as seen as well as the marriages in like even though they usually might know the senior members of like that the remaining senior members of like the marriages might be like usually just members that like usually like only take up like the subject once a while and like might be also only presenting like the skills once a while like skill based once a while still able to bring like for them to like basically also that thing to so we can actually destroy like the current skill. That would be like kind of like a succeed issue on those different form like the remaining senior members of the current skill. That so like my membership for like most likely is only due to that reason I'm looking for like you know like the remaining like the mispresent like the remaining I think like two senior members underwhelming senior members of like the that going showing up to that location and them along like Natsu and the others like basically only crushing like Jose as well as like the remaining element was like the scenario that I was differing. So them also bring like the element for partly being defeated, but like I'm considering Jose somehow managing to like escape. What like I'm the that I'm considering like them to be totally or defeated and at that point like the element for as well as like Jose totally we only have to be scared and like them only finding a way to like free and then escaping. Well, like the time being was like start about with the final scenario that I'm also only thing and myself to training so like I was doing after that, like by the time macro would be like, and so that fight about the different area thoroughly being defeated, like the element was number of like the kind of like area that literally being defeated, and that way like macro finally getting back is like magic. So like I'm going to bring by the time like that's when brothers will be returning back to like the heritage builders like or like towards like macro like at that point that was different like macro being absolutely not with like not just with like the senior parents and guild members alone, but like about with like national brothers as well, with like the visual scenarios that have been fiction members remember. So like what remember their person right now that like Polunchka and Master Macro might actually be husband and wife with members. They might have been gotten married in like the certainly members remember. So like but like the remaining third decile members would be like but like the parent members would be like only knowing that them just having like a bond of friendship between the relevant friends. So, like macro might often like this instantly show up to like the East Forest and meet up with like might have been meeting up with like Polunchka, Chica Babies and that time is also definitely my good remember. So like and right now my good impression that for like Polunchka getting extremely angry with like just for the fact that like two of like the two parents was standing right there like beside like the sick matter would be precisely because of like police cat only out for loud left only wanting it could be a false reason that like police cat said about like pressing payments it's like the last thing like a fixed person wants like and all that like that would be like I'm going to bring like not like the actual true reason for like Polska so badly and quickly wanting like the two parents still members to like leave Polska's home it would be presented because of like police crowd of her love and they were concerned for like Master Macro, like basically her wanting to like for to take care of like Master Macro all by her friends. Maybe like the actual true reason kind of her getting only those extremely angry with like the two parents members standing beside like Macro. It's definitely one of the reactions. So like definitely one of the reactions right now with like Master Macro like magic drifting off to the air and so disappearing. Like I'm going to bring the lead familiar right now with like the parents will like being in the critical situation where like they would like totally have to like act fast or like macro like magic will be gone forever like about the definitely right now about it will be like maybe about it will be Eartha that will be taking that absolute decision to like basically for them to like absolutely give it their everything and basically storm in back into that precise base of like the so it's based off like the fan of views because like they were telling us like they have like no other choice precisely because of like then having to like act fast if they were like not max out to get back to like magic. So like I was telling us and like the remaining and the remaining members like they going back into like the base of like the fan of views and the numbers were like there this time numbers they would be like that time they would be like only getting like deep search because like unlike the previous time like at that point like I was very it wouldn't just be like Jose alone that won't be present there like I was very even like Arias when won't be like present there in like the base and I was very like the other numbers separating like I am the deal as well won't be like present there like I am the deal as well might have only head off and might be like on his way to like the precise like tower like base or like a place where like Jose currently is definitely my famous. So like I was wondering at that point like and this is like a macro had lost his like magic to like areas like brain magic like it's like Mass Micro had lost his magic in like the base of like the financial like I'm just saying there like in order for them to like collect like Mass Micro's magic like they would have to like the retention members would have to like go storm into like that place like financial like them zooming into like the basic background to that luckily like with all this and when four members as well as I am getting as well as both are not being personally like the rest then easily being able to like defeat all the remaining random members low rank members of like the Paris Guild and then bring and like the remaining fandom remaining fandom members like them totally like crossing like the entirety of like the fandom guild base and like in the air in like the like indoor and just around like the building of like base of like the numbers in them being able to like collect a lot of like the lost value of like macro from like the air. It's like the scenario that I'm looking still I'm wondering them not being able to like like the full complete magic of like not macro. Like I'm not going to bring even by then like it would exactly like college together like it might not have been too late. So like I'm bringing some of like a certain extent of like macros like magic. So like my grandparents was like from macros, like total magic, like total full magic that had been like lost to like the brain magic of area. Like I was different like the parents still like guild members, like even though they were just struggling hard and collecting a lot of like that magic, still able to bring like a certain extent of like mathematics or like magic would have permanently gotten lost because of them being late if like the scenario my personal emergence. So like I'm even though Math Macro would be getting back a lot of his magic, still able to bring like Math Macro not being as strong as he was until Arya had like drained away like matter of magic is like maybe scenario that about to work. Even though he will be getting back like a lot of his magic, like still matter of being a whole lot weaker than he was before like Arya had basically taken away Math Macro magic. It's like the even the scenario that I'm looking at the propaganda of the game. So like the film would be a person right now of like Polunchka fearing like the objective of like Matsumakaro dying like I'm referring like definitely Matsumakaro would definitely be surviving. It's definitely not very much that I'm referring like it is only due to like the remaining characters members like really putting in everything to basically collect like a certain level of like magic in like the air within like the indoor and like the area surrounding like the base of the gravity with certain level of pressure response and them being able to like get back the extent of like the magic that they will be able to collect like them being able to like basically be able to get back that much extent of like magic of mathematical like like them being able to like collect at least that much extent of like magic of mathematical and being able to propagate back to like Polunchka. And so, and about to bring at that point, like mathematical will be on the verge of dying. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. So, it will possibly to be in like that very last second that I'm possibly like just in like the nick of time like possibly like a time like those like possibly like bring back like all the characters will technically bring back like that which man can like quickly Polishka like using some sort of like a unique match to like restore that match that response of magic onto like macro at that point at that moment it's like the scenarios that I'm considering. And that way, like, even though macro would be surviving, that like still I'm considering like macro would be like a whole lot weaker. That like maybe the impression is for like at that point, even though macro would be surviving, he would have lost a lot of like access to strength that basically at that point I'm considering like macro who like that without saint and all that like who had all that exceptional strength like I was doing was with all that strength now temper spring macro just having like the power from that point on, which will be like almost near to or like just equivalent to that of it's like the scenario that I'm doing on the topic and my opinion. My representation definitely for like that way with like macro that losing a lot of not just like the strength but like they would be like, losing a lot of like unique magic and magical skills and all that like due to like the situation. It's like the scenario that I'm at. So like I'm thinking even though macro would be like an injury, I'm think for macro to like definitely survive. But still because of like him losing all this like magical powers and skills and all that like him like losing like the position of like without saying it's definitely my position reimbursement. So like definitely my position reimbursement right now was like Natsu and Lucy back in like the paradise. Like I'm supposed to bring like that very nice like I'm supposed to bring like once again like the next attack by like the fan skills or like the character skill based on the thing definitely to happen during the fight in my that very nice especially the scenario that I was talking about especially because of like what you say like getting back Lucy like affecting Lucy would be that absolute highest priority for him so like definitely not to do that while at the same time and attack like the period he would be like fully aware that like in order for him to like that like especially right now like the period will be like, kind of like in like and like say so like especially definitely in order for him to like get Lucy back, like possibly take Lucy back, like he was definitely like him and his like kind of skills would definitely have to like have a fight against like the redemption. This one thing that I'm also bring like Joseph will be whenever aware of. So like I'm also bring like yet like I'm also bring him also thinking of the lines as to like basically that like yet like I'm also bring Joseph being like absolutely confident in like the current situation with like especially with, like master macro having lost it's like magic, like basically that would be giving that extreme added more confidence to like Jose. It's like the scenario that I was going. So like I'm considering yet like Jose thinking along the lines that basically you know to like not get in trouble with like the council like that lead. Just like a normal searching which until like attacking another normal which until so that like so it's like that like both so in like broad daylight would like and attracting attention would be like getting the kind of building like trouble. So precisely to maintain the like for normal for them to like not get in trouble with like the council about to bring like exactly like the first time that basically they had like attacked stealthily like the Paradise states like about to bring like in a similar yet different manner. I'm not it would be once again like stealthily and in like the middle of the night that I'm going to bring like fan of skill would be attacking like the Paradise at their base, but like I'm not for this time it won't be like a long range attack but like I'm going to bring an action close range taking over of like the Philadelphia games, like storming into like the final field thing, like the middle of the night, like storming into like the Philadelphia to like possibly take to attack like the Philadelphia members and forcefully take those seats. Like the scenario that I was doing, and I'm doing at that point. Like the Philadelphia members, like once again, like especially with like the absence of Rocky McCoy, was like the fight totally happening within like the heritage guild base and then like even the fixing that like the poor heritage guild members had turns to like their heritage guild base like that would be like once again getting destroyed like their guild heritage guild base getting like even more destroyed it's like scenario that I was doing and I was doing even though that's when like, all of them would be giving it their absolute everything about different still like the panel skill the like Jose and like the element for like being far too strong that I'm also bringing like the heritage guild only being defeated by the Spanish skill and bring back Jose laughing at like the repeated names and all of them and basically like hopefully taking like losing and that they would be about to leave like the fairy skill base. Like at that point is when I'm precisely for like precisely coincidentally like precisely to get that point that I'm about to something like the all the senior fairy skill members will be like they might have gone off on some like a frank research job and that might be like it might be like, in like the current situation like I'm wondering like they might have like just all of like the senior fairy tale guild members except for like a son. All of the remaining fairy tale senior fairy tale guild members might not even be at all aware of like all the happenings of like the of like the fairy of like the situation with like Macaro and like the fairy tale guild base and like with like the fantasy guild and all that like so like I'm different like they might have all the senior circle members might have only gone off for like their regular job and maybe like they might have gone off to like uh, take up like an extremely difficult assignment with a job. So like it might since it might have been an extremely difficult assignment with a job, I'm considering like them all of like the remaining senior characters members might be might have attempted like that assigned job. Extremely difficult assigned job, assigned job together. So like I'm considering they might have finally completed that assigned job and like they would be like only on their way into like returning back to like the parent skill base. That would be when I was preferring like coincidentally that would be precisely when they would be like shockingly seeing like the entirety of like the scroll state in which like the heritage the conscious heritage skill basis and also it would be coincident that that moment that like I'm going for Jose and like the element four will be like laughing at like the recreated Natsu and like the others and basically hopefully taking away those and like leaving like the heritage skill base like right as they will be opening the door and basically not opening the door, but like right as like Jose and his like element four would be just stepping out of like the fairy guild base after like possibly taking Lucy. But during at that point itself, like basically them like Jose and his like element for having that affiliate unpleasant surprise was like an extremely enraged like and like the prison and like the remaining two underground senior players guild members like standing right in front of them. So like at that point I was bring them collectively to totally easily overpower and defeat and destroy like Jose as well as like the element for at that point it's like with another that I'm considering. So like I'm considering like that way Lucy being saved is also like the scenario that I'm only covering and solely due to like Lucy getting that and like the still like them totally getting lucky with like the senior retention members like surprisingly coincidentally showing up to their heritage guild base precisely at that point like the scenario that I was referring and I'm referring at that point like in as well those like totally telling to the senior heritage guild members like I'm also bringing to the that would be telling to the senior heritage guild and I'm also bringing one like Josie and like the element for who be corrupt and defeated at that point, Silva was bring them to like only retreat. And I was bringing it to be at that point that I was bringing like Garza would be revealing to and telling to about all the happenings that had everything that had happened when like the senior characters still members were away. So like I was bringing and the situation was like macro and everything. So like at that point I was bringing like even though Lactus might not care at all about like even mathematical, but I'm considering like the remaining 102 senior parents members as well as like Mr. would genuinely deep down would be caring about like mathematical. So like I'm considering them telling like the fairy tales guild members that like let's show like the ways of like the ways of like the finance and get back all the magic of Macro and let's just bring the old guy back like basically along the lines of bring like the senior parents members saying and then was bring them all like at that point I was bring like the all of the remaining fairy tale skill members like would be like at that point like with like the senior in the presence of like their senior paradise members like emphasizing them having like their morale boosted up and basically them all like basically heading off to like the fantasy days and basically uh, at that point like I'm also like them taking out like the remaining fantasy members and basically them collecting all like the or like I'm also like at that point like Jose and like the others would be presented that so like I'm considering already they would be badly injured and defeated. So like I'm considering them being like absolutely scared and like I'm considering like at that point like the Japanese like the Berlin skills coming into like that base of like the man skills and like I'm considering them to like basically at that point collect like let's just like magic of macro as they can and basically them returning back to like Polunchka and giving that magic to macro and in the nick of time like master macro solely due to like him getting that much project magic back like he's surviving and that's like the scenarios that I'm going to notice again with the history impression. So that's definitely going to be interesting that I'm thinking on to explore like Lucy's father who definitely would be like a royal or like a noble for him to like not don't care about like for like a whole year since like Lucy had run away from her home and for him to like not at all care for about like Lucy for like a whole year and right now all of a sudden like for him to like basically go to extreme extent to just to get Lucy back like I'm just thinking it would definitely have to I'm still thinking about the like would definitely have to do with like him selfishly having something a lot to like gain like solidated with like selfish gains and desires to be feeling the soldiers for like rewarding Lucy back. So like I'm also thinking either it would be like a political marriage through which like I'm going to bring uh like that would be what like through Lucy what it would be like what like right now that's the reason for like Lucy's father totally desperately wanting Lucy back. That's like one possibility that I'm observing. Or like I'm observing like since his father might have been someone who badly and desperately always wanted to be like a council member. So like he might have never been able to, but right now I'm observing like even while he is not able to like become a council member, like there might have been some sort of a situation right now where like he might have seen like an opportunity of like making of him being able to like make Lucy into like a council member. It's definitely my very favorite. So like he might have seen such an opportunity right now, and that would be like, and his intent would be to like just keep Lucy as like a playful council member, while for him to like basically give all of it like into like the role as like the council member, council as like a council member and like do like everything as he pleases, like through Lucy, like basically by secretly giving orders to like Lucy, and basically that way taking advantage at that point for him to try to take advantage of like that position of like a council member that Lucy would be holding at that point. So like it would be either one of these two like reasons that I'm also trying as for like the first reason for like right now like Lucy's father going through such extreme extent to get Lucy like after not caring about her for like a whole year. It's definitely one of the same eruption. So it's a thing maybe for like the possibility of like Lucy having like stupid exam of the brain like Lucy's father might have forcefully like enforced like political marriages and each and every one of like Lucy's sequence as well, especially elected pastors, definitely might have so like Lucy might have been like the only one that might have had like mustered of like the courage to like be believe. Yes, it's definitely my same person. So that definitely does the same person right now as for like Nora cracking and destroying like her system god proves that she communicates with like Laxus and even asking if like that would be even a fairy tale still but like I'm sure like, definitely since like definitely it would be like with master macros like the master of like the fairy tale like would be precisely macro that might have definitely chosen like Lactose as like a member of like the fairy tale skill and definitely like Lactose would be like a member of like even while Lactose acts out in like such an extremely bold and insensitive and unempathetical manner like that would be only like front of like or like a fake way of like in which like because like maybe because of like was me being insecure, being uh of like then the others finding out that basically he's like absolutely no and absolutely no into like the relationship and all that. It's definitely one of the like maybe like might have felt that basically putting on this like fake act as a like is probably unempathetic and like and all that. Like that would be like maybe like this idea of like what he believes would be like makes him look cool in front of like the other members of the family. It's definitely a very issue. So like I'm sorry so really my personal impression right now as for like and separately since it would be definitely Max's that it would essentially like Max Macro that might have especially chosen that to be like and selected that to be like a member of a separate still. Definitely that would be a member of like a paradise still for like a reason. And that reason wouldn't just be like this like exceptional right. But it would also be that due to like Max Macro deep down knowing that it's or the insensitive ways of like that acting, usually acting then time. That's only like a fake act of lack of like deep down like genuinely care. It's definitely my perspective. Macro might have been able to see that, and that might have been like the and sole reason for like macro like accepting and making uh, accepting as well as lactose into like being like a member of like the very resident and it wouldn't just it wouldn't be his like price. It's definitely my perspective. So definitely my especially because of like my personal impressions are definitely like not even a single member of like the family like a person who's like who has like the cat of attitude of like any even a single member of like the family would be like the kind of person that like macro would never accept into like the fairy tale skin. It's definitely my personal opinion. So like especially since like it would be with the macro that might have definitely accepted like into like the fairy tale skin. There would definitely be a reason and that reason would be that they found that get is genuinely a good person and that is genuinely care. And definitely my personal so like because basically my personal reason for like a midnight attack by the Phantom skill and like the element for and basically where they will be like totally Jose as well will be totally present and they will be like totally thoroughly crushing and overpowering and defeating like the various skill members including Nasu and Aslan and all of them and they would be like forcefully taking away like Lucy. And at that point, like I'm referring like the NIGI contact with like Natsu and Lucy as like Natsu will be badly defeated and just that Natsu won't be able to like do anything. While Lucy will be like getting dragged and taken away from like the Peruvian jail. So like after referring essentially at that point as like Lucy will be like shouting out like Nasu or something. And at that point, it's kind of something like it's Jose and like the and when Paul will be like stepping out of the very intelligent phase, like they will be like what they will be seeing will be not just Lactus but like the entirety of like the remaining not just Lactus and Mr. Jim, but like the entirety of like the remaining two, I think, like members, underpaid senior members of the secretary, like standing right there in front of like Jose, as Jose would be like dragging it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. So like I'm going to bring like right now, even though Mira has like crushed and destroyed her crystal ball due to her like having feeling that approach race towards like Lactus like Lactus like what Lactus might have done would be like totally after like the communication with like Mira, what Lactus might have done might have been like Lactus might have straight away informed like not just Mr. Jen but also like the underweight to remaining senior secretary members that like we have a job to do and basically like them all under the running like by the time they would be making it to like the period like it would really do is that like that's the exact moment in like the middle of the night as like that Phantom Guild would be like totally laughing at like the defeated Paradise Guild members and would be like taking away duty and would be totally feeling like victorious and would be stepping out of like the Paradise Guild like the moment they would be stepping out of the Paradise Guild like them be confronted by like the senior members of like the Paradise Guild, them showing up and like them starting their own fighting and then straight away losing being free and like their presence totally upping that morale of like the entirety of like, the remaining Paradise Guild members and them all collectively destroying and corrupting like the fantasy of like the scenarios that I'm totally forgetting still taking on to members of membership. Like the play member 3% right now is for like one of like the Paradise Guild member like basically telling her that like basically that she fights against like the parents killed like this, she would be only getting in their way, even though she was like an S rank wizard in like the Paradise Guild. Like I'm also like definitely it might have to do with like the test of like I think her sister, like whom I'm not sure, I think like was like Anathu's like best friend that I think like Anathu even had like affectionate feelings towards that girl, and I'm wondering like so like definitely like the loss of like and her sister like basically might not definitely like it's also definitely my brother's favorite. So like what Natsu had to say sister like that the girl that Natsu had seen, I think like in like it was once again in like the esports that I think like earlier like Natsu and Happy who are like best friends with like that girl who along with like Natsu had taken care of like Happy's egg and all that. Like basically she might not have believed in died and it might have been her parents that basically that were happy earlier in that I think in that piece for might have seen. It's definitely my best friend. So like even though until the death of her sister, like basically Mara might have been like an S rank might have actually even to like the very day before like her sister died, like I'm considering he might have definitely been Mira might have definitely been like an exceptional strong S rank member of like the fairy tale. You just definitely my best friend. But like after that death of like her sister might have only stopped so much and might not only affected her powers and her health and everything. It's definitely my favorite. Because like right now, like Polunchka even saying that it's need for like a great wizard or like a strong wizard, like they need magic is like the source of like their life. So like I'm it might have been like the very same case for like precisely Mara as well. Definitely my perfect memory. So like I'm talking about like the shock, that extreme shock of like that has come for just like might have caused her like might not only affected her like magical powers and that way might have even affected her like life force and everything. Since definitely my was very much good. Like right now, I'm considering like Mira would be like that precise fairy tale skill member who would only be able to like use simple magic like the kind of magic that she would only like Mira would be having that absolute restriction where like she would only be able to like use magic that doesn't that's not skill set like that Mira won't be able to like Mira would be since after his the death of her sister like after Mira like since then Mira might have been in a situation where like she might have straight away been removed from like the X rank position of like the senior member position of like the attention by Macro himself, especially because of like Mira not being able to like use any sort of like magic for combat and that point was definitely my perspective, especially because of her using any intense and powerful magic which which would be used for combat like that would be totally affecting her health. She would have to like strain a lot to like use any combat kind of like intense magic. So like that would totally put straight away putting a toll on her health as well. It's like the situation will be like most likely the situation for like Mora is definitely my comfortable. So like Mora would only be able to like use magic that is like not intense and like not that's not used in fighting or anything. It's definitely my supposed to be like the only kind of magic that like Mara will be able to like use. It's definitely my preference. This might be the precise reason for like right now like Mara telling the other parents in member that basically she's going to fight like basically at that point in that other parents in member even straight away telling Mara that she would only be getting in the way because like I'm reason was because of like if Mara actually uses her powerful magic that she would have to like actually in a fight then straight away that would be totally straight away affecting Mira's health and basically that way like with like Mira getting that up to toll and like using such magic like it could affect like Mira's health and Mara is the affect seriously affecting like Mara's health and that would be totally affecting like the entire performance of like the remaining characters in member that they would be genuinely concerned for like Mara. In that way like that would be the precise reason for like that parent member telling Mara that she would only be getting in the way. It's like the, she buys like the parents will definitely my reaction. Okay, so like the same reaction right now like for like the castle like base of like the parents will being able to like walk and all the way towards like the parents will base like I'm like it would definitely have to solely do with like the magic mysterious and unique magical powers of like one definitely one of like the element for of like the parents skill would be definitely having specifically using that single element for members like power that allows the protecting the castle or like the castle like huge space of the expansion has walked and made it all the way to like the third gym. It's definitely my little game version. So like definitely also the game version right now as well like as I using her adamantine for which I would feel like a strongest defensive power that currently have. So definitely my little game version. Yet but that like the fact that like as like trying to like block as well as like trying to block like that ultimate Jupiter cannon like attack from like the Phantom skill like I'm considering definitely considering even though like some of like the fairy skill members are even totally fearing like the possibility of like us actually dying. I'm considering uh, still emphasizing successfully blocking and stopping that attack. But like at the cost would be like definitely emphasizing us still surviving, but like the cost would be like us totally so extremely badly injured that like emphasizing even her adamantine by the time she would be like blocking and stopping like the Jupiter cannon magical attack like emphasizing the moment she would be stopping that attack like her adamantine armors would be like breaking off and basically getting destroyed and then bring Arza totally either going unconscious or like being so extremely badly injured and like lying on the floor and basically totally being unable to like move at all. It's like the scenario that happened. Like from that point on, I'm bring definitely Arza not in this like current attack of like the fan will like throw the entirety of like uh this attack of like the current attack of like the fan skill. So definitely for everything else, I'm not being able to like contribute at all to like the fight against like the financial right now. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. And yeah, I can do the thing like definitely with this like current magical cannon to attack I'm going to bring Arthur totally permanently losing her like ultimate like current ultimate defensive adamantine armor magical power. Permanently is like the scenario that I'm going to bring her permanently losing access to that power, that magic power probably getting wiped out and destroyed. It's definitely necessary. So like Afsar, after like this battle, like Afsar will never be able to like after this point, like Afsar will never be able to like use some adamantine armor magic ever again. Definitely necessary. Yet like I'm going to bring Afsar like usually like the people I'm definitely putting like after training so extremely hard and basically after eventually being able to like learn maths or like have eventually getting access to like maths that would be far extremely superior stronger than like the adamantine mathematics. Example considering and that would be like an even more exceptionally stronger like defensive magical armor. Example considering like after you'd be like able to like access such a magic in like the computer. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm doing on the perfect technically weapon very impressive. Like things like I think like it really like the paradise skill. It's like how much like from like the moment they heard like the name like the paradise skill like they make it. By the way they reacted like basically definitely by the very impressive especially that like definitely like the paradise skill might have had this like same kind of like parts with like the paradise skill in like the way from like the very distant past as where like the paradise skill might have like fought off against like the paradise skill in like the past like multiple times it's definitely my preference. Yet, like I'm considering like right now, as for like the fairy tale guild, like totally this time like totally being like so easily being outsmarted and thoroughly defeated by like the Phantom Guild with such ease, with like even Master Macro representing being taken down by such ease this time by like the Phantom Guild. Which I'm considering might out definitely would be something like a fairy tale losing in such with like such that absolute swiftness and with such absolute ease in which like the Phantom Guild even defeating like the fairy guild might be one thing that might have never happened in like the multiple times like the fairy guild might have fought off against like the Hannah's guild and like the castle definitely that was everything. The first like I'm also going whenever like the fairy guild might have fought off against like the Hannah's guild like it might have it might have been intense fight like it might have most of the time it might have only the fight might have only resulted in like a draw with like maybe like very few times in like the past, like maybe like the parents even having like defeated like the fans maybe like the past the cinematography premise. But like I'm wondering right now, as for like the fantasy right now, so such keep being able to like defeat like the parents, it might only have to do with like Lucy's father, the cinematography. Lucy's father might be like solely due to like just like Lucy's father being so extremely rich, like I'm wondering in order to like get Lucy back, like I'm he might have paid like an extreme handsome sum of like money to like the fantasy and might have uh, so that like the and might have told like the fantasy to like use all this money and buy whatever you want, whatever like exceptionally strong magical items and powers you want, and that way use all that magical items and magical objects and everything uh, to basically bring down like the fairy skill and basically get Lucy back to me. Might be what might have happened, and that might have been exactly happened, and that might be like the reason for like the panic skill. Most likely, it might be this time alone that the panic skill might not only stop the fairy skill so much of like with them so easily defeating like the fairy skill. for like would be something that's like happening right now for like the first time, and then even being able to like to bring down macro as well will be something that might right now would be happening for like the first time in like the entirety of like the history of like the clashes between like the fairy tale guild and like the fantasy guild in like the past. This would be like the first time like the fairy tale guild would be in such a defeated state against like the fantasy guild. It's definitely my opinion. This would be like the precise and Lucy's father like would be the precise reason for that. It's also definitely my abduction. Okay, so like definitely my abduction right now with like the fairy tale guild members have getting like 15 having like 15 full minutes until like the second Jupiter ultimate Jupiter magical cannons attack would be like getting recharged that shows us also like the parents will understand their face like I'm still with all that time I'm right now like the like the parents members rather like have that absolute determination to like rather die than basically to give up on losing like I'm different especially even though that's like the case like I'm different still with like a macro down as well as like that's like the only like senior heritage skill member that like currently present in like the heritage skill like as well like being like down and defeated like I'm bring definitely in like the so like I'm bring definitely the morale of like the heritage skill members would still be down. It's definitely my perspective and I'm bring especially right now with like him even like Jose even revealing that he's about to like go like the second Jupiter. I'm bring like that only shifting Lucy to basically to basically try I'm working right now Lucy is really trying to convince like future like the fairy tale members including so that basically she like use it that like since like Lucy would be like generally feeling that basically like the second Jupiter can attack like basically not that like the entirety of like the fairy tale skill members including like the fairy tale guild phase everything would be like only destroyed with like the second Jupiter so like I was Lucy totally right now in like the current situation, Lucy is not like begging like the remaining operative skill members, each of them one by one, like even including Natsu, like Lucy is only for Lucy is only begging to all of them to like basically that basically should not resist against like the fans that basically she would like basically she would basically head back to like captivity by like the fans like basically along the lines like that she would like head back to her father like basically along the line and considering like Lucy is only begging right now the students totally begging to like Nats and each of like the retired guild members. But like I'm considering like Natsu totally holding on to like Lucy and telling Natsu telling Lucy that basically that is may not happening and like I'm considering like the remaining retired guild members as well saying like the exact same thing at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm observing. So like at that point, like I'm also trying like Natsu and all of them, giving Lucy kind of like a confidence that basically, come on, like we can work together and we can still like win this along the lines. Like I'm also trying like that's what others like somehow managing to like give Lucy that confidence. And I'm also trying like in like the next second Jupiter cannon attack that like Jose would be like executing like in that ultimate second cannon attack. Like I'm looking that attack to possibly be even more stronger than like the first Jupiter cannon attack. But like I'm referring as for that attack, I'm referring each and every single fairy tale skill member, including Lucy, would be like giving it their absolute everything to like defend against that second, even more intense like Jupiter attack, cannon attack than like the first one. Like I'm referring like each and every single fairy tale skill member like basically giving it their absolute everything into that blocking and defending that attack. And finally, I'm considering them to like only succeed, but like I'm considering even though they would be succeeding, like by the time like they would be like succeeding in like blocking that second Jupiter attack, they would all be like so badly exhausted and injured and on the floor and would be totally unable to move. So it's like the scenario that I'm considering, including Lucy as well, would be like totally badly injured and on the floor and unable to move. So like at that point, is when I'm considering most likely Jose would be like slowly walking up to like the fairy tale skill phase, and I'm considering Jose totally Jose only like taking Lucy and dragging Lucy away. And I'm considering it should be at that point that I'm considering probably uh, and at that after like even taking Lucy I'm considering especially because of like Jose most likely desperately always having that desire to like destroy like the fairy tale guild phase as well as the destroy like the entire fifth like, the fairy tale guild. So I'm considering like most likely maybe like I am getting as well to be present within that castle like space of like the castle like space of like the fantasy. So like I'm considering either it's being like Joseph Christian or like I'm considering either it's being like I engage in decisions that I'm considering something in like basically still not taking Lucy, trying Lucy and taking Lucy to that precise to the castle of like the fantasy like even after that like I'm considering like either Jose or like Gajin like from the castle like gems like using a mic and basically laughing at like the badly defeated like fairy tale skill members and like telling them that like you really think that we are going to stop with like a second stupid like we are and I'm considering like Jose only announcing that like he is going to like launch like another third stupid even after getting Lucy, like I was wondering, like Jose laughing at the repeated characters will remember them and deciding to like launch another third Jupiter. So that like Jose would be able to like wipe out like the fairy tale entire guild members as well as like the guild base, like with like the third Jupiter. So like I was wondering the third Jupiter to be like even more intense that like even like the second Jupiter can attack like the scenario that I was wondering and I was wondering that can attack being shot straight towards like the Guild members would be like all lying on bandaged, injured and lying on the floor. And would be like only thing that basically this would be like the end of the road for us as like the fairy tale guild. Basically would be along the line that they know we like feeling at that point. So like at that very last second is when I'm supposedly right now pressing for like the team of like Mr. and like the two underveiled senior fairy tale guild members like showing up and like the four of them like precisely easily with such ease like blocking that precise third ultimate powerful like super cannon magic and beam like the scenario that I'm basically and now they're trying like the those four like senior like heritage members like straight away storming into and infiltrating into like the castle and basically them for like basically definitely like the four would be a whole lot stronger than even like the element four of like the Madam Skill is definitely my Korean person. Like the like top senior pro senior members of the cooperative would actually be so especially even stronger than that. So definitely my rebel. So like I was different with just like the strength of like the four senior members of the cooperative skill like the entirety of like the parents build as well as Jose being defeated and Lucy being saved. And at that point, like I'm also bring like the castle and I was bring at that point like on seeing like how like the parent skill has been like what's been damage I like the parent skill like I was bring at that point like I was bring like last and like Mr. Jen as well as the remaining four as well as the remaining two hundred like senior parent team members like launching their ultimate like their version of like a cannon like Jupiter like an attack onto like the parent skill which like fantasy skill based like as like fantasy skill based using with which like after like her feud with Lucy and defeating like Jose and the others, like they will be like completely destroying like the entirety of like, the castle, like Phantom's base building, like the scenario that I was bring. So like at that very last second, I was to bring like the defeated element for as well as Jose, like only succeeding in like retreating and escaping and jumping out and escaping from like the castle like kind of skill base. But like I was thinking with that final attack, like the entirety of like, the kind of skill base being like suddenly destroyed. It's like the scenario. I'm considering at that point there will be absolutely nothing left of like that. So it's castle like huge kind of skill base at that point. It's like some scenario that I was notifying I'm at the show. And that way like all the spotlight at that point like only falling on people like that with Mr. Jen as well as like the two unrevealed like the senior skills of like the entire thing spotlight falling out to them and like it's like the eventual scenario that I'm also totally taken by the Korean. So my Korean version that basically since like Master Macro had in fact lost its like magic while being indoors within that surprise castle like Phantom's Guild face like base building like I'm also putting especially because of this reason I'm definitely putting before like the like for senior fairy tale guild members, like including like the Switzerland and the other 200 real fairy tale senior guild members would be like the point like the phantom castle like phantom guild base like I'm referring especially before that like them most likely being stopped by Mira or someone and basically that way like saying that they have to first collect like the magic that Macro had lost the sense that precise castle like base of it so like I'm referring first for them to like collect all that magic just like things being convenient for like the fairy tale guild members so that like the castle itself like base of expanded guild like walking up to like the fairy tale guild like and that way like making things easy for like the fairy tale guild members to like but who would be like by then would have like record enough to be able to like walk so like I'm considering them to be entering like the fandoms guild base and basically them collecting like as much of magic of macro as they can. And basically, after collecting all the as much magic as macro that will be present within indoor within like that precise skill base, like after collecting that magic and coming out of like the skill base, like I was referring to get that point that I was referring definitely the four senior certificate members like launching their ultimate canon like Jupiter like kind of like a superior version of like the Jupiter kind of like an ultimate canon being like an attack that is straight towards like the final skill phase. It should be precisely straight away destroying like the final skill phase to like with like absolutely nothing after that attack I'm considering absolutely nothing would be left of like that final skill phase at that building at that point. It's like the scenario that I was like and the princess thing to happen to mention that like basically badly injured and badly defeated like Jose and like the element for might actually succeed in like escaping, barely escaping. So they are like right before that. It's also like the scenario that I mentioned on the and that was very impressive that I'm sitting on. Okay, so like actually it was very impressive right now with like Loki, like the heritage skill member Loki, like may not once but like twice carefully staring at like Lucy and both different it might actually have to do with like Lucy being like a sensitive step, then I'm also very sensitive to start, and I'm also very like definitely like the uh, whole like it's like that basically Loki has towards like self-indulgence. Like I'm also very like it to not be like a definitely for like a flashback of Loki as to like how exactly that it's like he was like self-indulgence wizard like was formed within like Loki. I'm also very like that flashback and might be like some sort of like serious flashback but remember like Loki might have some sort of like a serious kind of like the doubles or like a situation he might have had in his above with like a celestial wizard is definitely very good. So like it's like towards like Lucy might be on serious level, which definitely my perspective. That's only to like Lucy being like a celestial wizard is definitely very good. Maybe like Lucy presence itself might have like ever since like Lucy joined like prepare against kids and Lucy revealed that to like Loki that like Lucy is like a celestial wizard like I'm since then like I'm like maybe Loki's like that reflect that Loki had towards like Lucy might not be like an old serious mistake, but like might have been like an extremely serious and might Lucy's person might have been extremely disturbing to Loki's instead. It's also definitely my perception. Maybe like I'm considering possible reason also I'm considering maybe would be like Loki like parents might have had like the in like the distant past might have had like their life taken by a precise set of skills that. It's definitely also my perception. So like maybe this might be the consideration for like Loki possibly and that with like against like Princeton without definitely also my personal but so it might be like a locus decide just like to like Princeton towards like Princeton will have might have that at that extent of like the seriousness. It's also definitely my movement and that would be precisely connected to like Loki right now, precisely twice right now staring at Lucy is definitely my movement. Especially because like while all the remaining fairy tale members had shouted that with their father died and gave up Lucy and considering Loki alone might desperately might have been wanting for such a situation where like he could like only give up Lucy so a situation where like Lucy would like be removed from like the parent instance. So like I'm considering that would be along the lines that Loki would be thinking right now. So like I'm considering Loki like stealthily while all of like the remaining fairy members would be like only fighting like the shape like the those like army soldiers uh, of Joffrey as well as like while Nazgûl and Grey would be like only busy in like destroying like the cannon like I'm considering what precisely Loki would be doing but I'm considering Loki stealthily like casually going up and standing right next to like Lucy and I'm considering while absolutely none of the fairy skills would be like not at all expecting I'm considering like Loki stealthily using some sort of like his like unique magic using the which like I'm considering Loki maybe like turning putting Lucy to sleep or like turning Lucy unconscious or like most likely putting Lucy to sleep scenario that I'm considering Loki by himself like quickly like quickly taking Lucy and basically quickly flying off to like and I'm considering maybe like Loki might have like the unique magic with which like Loki might have like the power of like either teleportation or like Loki might have like the power to maybe using magic. Loki might not have like powers to like fly, but still I'm considering Loki might have like some sort of like a unique magic with which like he would have like the power to like teleport instantly to places like to areas that Loki have been before to certainly or like to a certain distance that is definitely my memory. So like I was working Loki quickly putting Lucy to like sleep, and basically while Lucy was standing all by herself, like I was working Loki like steadily standing beside her Lucy and like putting her to like sleep and quickly taking her and basically using his like teleportation magic like Loki like suddenly teleporting and like standing right next to like the front door of like the castle, like face of like the final space. And at that point, I'm when Joseph only seeing this and Joseph straight away opening the doors and like Loki entering and Loki only making that ultimate betrayal of like the fairy tale skills and Lucy and basically Loki handing over Lucy to Joseph like the scenario that I'm developing right now. And I was wondering even by then like Natsu and Grey might have definitely not been able to like destroy like the cannon, Jupiter cannon of like the cannon weapon of like the Phantom Castle. Like this is definitely my good memory. So, like I was wondering, even after like getting Lucy, I was wondering at that point, like okay, might be the only thing that basically like the so that like with like him handing over Lucy to like Jose like the fans will want like shoot the Jupiter cannon be along the lines in which like I was wondering right then for like Loki to be thinking. But like I was wondering right then like I was wondering Jose announcing that basically like that he's still going to like destroy like the entirety of the fairy tale guild members as well as like the fairy tale skills. It's like the scenario that I was so like the team members there and the right now like Mira pulling out like the brilliant strategy of like using transformation magic and transforming yourself into like nation with like Luciano right now. Definitely Loki might have definitely not at all seen like Mira's strategy of like transformation magic as well as like Mira ordering like a readers to like take Lucy to like look at Lucy's home. It's definitely memorable. So like I was definitely like Loki might have definitely not seen this happen. So like I was wondering Loki right now without much delay. I'm wondering Loki certainly standing beside like certainly most likely approaching like Mira who would be like transformed and looking like Lucy at that point. Like certainly I'm wondering Loki certainly approaching Mira from the kind of I'm wondering Loki using some sort of like magic to turn Mira either put Mira into sleep or like turn Mira unconscious like the scenario that I'm moving. And I'm also bring like Loki at that point like totally thinking that like that Mara transformed as like Lucy like actually the original Lucy and I'm also bring like Loki betraying everyone and basically getting Lucy to getting Lucy to precisely like the face of like fantasy and like at that point like I'm also bring like even Joseph being that and Joseph being so extremely happy and basically Joseph quickly and I think Loki enter and along with like Lucy Nora transformed as Lucy and I was bring that way like I was bringing like not just Loki but like it's really like Joseph as well totally getting like outsmart on like the scenario that I'm observing. So especially because like I'm confused I'm also bring like eventually while taking Mara to like the base of like the fandom skill like at that point what exactly possibly like Loki would be like the magic that Loki would be possibly using to do that with the other putting like Mira to sleep or like I'm considering he would be like using some sort of magic that would be turning Mira unconscious. Yet I'm considering even in such a state like Mira like transformation magic would still be staying in effect to definitely my concerns. And that way like eventually both Loki as well as like both Loki as well as precisely uh, Jose as well like and the fact that all of them being like totally only getting pregnant and the manner with like recognition scenarios that are considered like and I'm also bring like even though like I'm also bring months like eventually like the senior fairy tale guild members and all of them bullies and at that point I was bring like all of like the remaining fairy tale guild members like while they will be seeing like Loki like taking like Mara would be transformed as like Lucy to like the Paris Belgium. Like at that point, like that remaining fairy tale still members who did only think that Loki has betrayed them and Lucy. So like I'm wondering like once like usually once like the senior fairy tale still members would be showing up and things would be all sorted and at that point I was wondering like basically once like the remaining characters and members would be like finding out that like it wasn't Lucy, it was just Mira booked up transformation and like at that point I was wondering like all of them like all of the remaining characters and members totally assuming that basically it wasn't like Loki betraying them but like it was just Loki and Mira's plan to like trick and pull like the fans would get on the line like including Natsu, like all of them will be like thinking it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. But like I'm going to bring it to be Mira alone, like would be like the only fairy tale still member that would be knowing that basically the truth that basically Loki had actually betrayed like the fairy tale still members and Loki as well. So like I'm supposed to bring from that point on I'm supposed to bring like the bond between like Mira and like Loki like basically growing deeper. But like I'm supposed to bring like Mira and Loki at that Mira only confronting Loki after like everything will be over as for like Loki's betrayal and I'm going to bring like in that whole serious interaction, prior serious interaction, I'm going to bring Loki or Loki would be at that point when I'm going to bring Loki will be totally revealing about Loki's backstory. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. And as to like the possibility which I'm still thinking on to that basically Loki's like family might have been uh, like like might have died like precisely by the hands of like a celestial wizard and basically that being the reason for like Loki ever since like Lucy joined like basically the very been like Loki having the big speech doesn't and just like feels like towards like Lucy and all that and hence why Loki has even betrayed that and all that like I'm afraid Loki like revealing his entire backstory to Mira alone is like the scenario that I'm about to bring but like I'm about to bring at that point Mara with her mature ways of thinking like Empress. Mara totally making Loki understand that basically like just because like Lucy is also like a sensitive with her like uh, she has absolutely nothing to do with the specific sentence with her that basically took the life of like Loki's family and all that like basically trying to like even though Loki would be known that like Loki would still be like from that since that incident like I'm since losing Loki's family like Loki might have been totally prejudicially seen realistically seeing like each and every single films without that feeling like come across in his life and certainly was available. So like I'm also like for that fight and writing Mara only removing that whole previous way of thinking of like Loki and that it will be from that point on that I'm whispering like Loki would be like totally starting to like Lucy. It's definitely my references and that time Loki might have definitely only had that deep it's like towards like Lucy, which would be only getting removed into like a genuine like with an friendship towards like Lucy and considering it will be from Loki's side towards Lucy considering to and Loki even seeing Lucy as like a fairy tale still member like basically only all that would be only happening at that point through that private interaction between like Mira and Loki that will be happening at that point in like the it's definitely like given the scenario that I mentioned of the Premier Temperature. So like definitely not the temperature right now that basically even though like just that absolute silly side of like a personality to for like Jose like still the fact that Jose holds like the title and the position of being like a wizard train definitely which will be like the exact same title that even matter of things like definitely there will be that exceptional power within like Jose and I'm going to bring definitely like the therapist remember like attempt to like basically bring down like the shapes magical soldiers of like those failing like I'm also bring like even with like no matter what strategy like the therapist remember would be using to like bring down the shade soldiers of like those I'm going to bring all that attempt to like fail and I'm going to bring it to not only be that attempt of like to bring down the shades and all that will be failing with that I'm also bringing like definitely the attempt of like Natsu and I think Grey like they need to destroy like the Jupiter cannon like they even that as well would be like totally no matter what ultimate power Natsu and Grey would be used still even that all of their attempts as well would be like totally failing to like see for them to be able to like destroy like the Jupiter cannon that simply won't be happening it's definitely my premise because of that exceptionally superiorly stronger magic of like the wizard say Jose it's definitely my premise. But this is like even like the shades, even the shades, like magical soldiers of like Jose also with them as well having like the very exact kind of like similar kind of like a magic training power to them. Like I'm not bring necessarily because of that. Like I'm not bring once the fight will be over and eventually once like the senior fairy tale members will be showing up along with like and basically once like they would be like once like Jofe and his element forwardly defeated at that point like Ambassador by then like Ambassador the states would have like drained out like the major almost like entirety of like a great number of like the fairy tale skills members might have almost like fully lost like their magic is definitely due to like the training attack of like the shades definitely my was damage. So like at that point it definitely would be that as soon as something to like get back on strong as soon as possible. Definitely my was damage and that was bring us this is like two of like the fairy tale guild members had actually met and talked to that had talked to Polunchka, and since they know that basically the magic that gets trained would be dissipating and would be present in the air before it starts to disappear. So I was wondering precisely the moment the Spanish guild members basically Jose as well as the four as well as the four elements of the Spanish guild would be definitely present within that castle fairy tale castle Spanish guild days and maybe I'm considering even also identity as well possibly being present in that precise castle days of the Spanish guild. It's also a possibility that I'm considering. But I'm considering once the four senior members of the fairy tale guild will be showing up, they will be crushing and defeating all of them. But at that point, still I'm considering these two these two certain skill members telling the remaining certain skill members that the law magic is in the air, so we must collect it to basically restore back the magic. So while they would be all collecting and restoring back, trying to restore back all of the magic of the certain skill members that have lost their magic. Along with that, I'm just once they would be entering the precise uh, Spanish skill base, at that point they would also be getting the uh, a good quantity of the lost magic of macro weapon still would be remain there. And they would be able to collect that as well at that point. And that way some of the bring two fairy tale skill members who had met police capacity being able to make it in time at that point and save Master Matter. Also from the scenarios that I'm going to the comic members of Reimpression. Basically the members of Reimpression right now is for with Mira transformation using the her transformation magic and transforming into multi she will be right now trying to achieve two things, and one would be Mira would be totally hoping that they will keep her in Lucy's form totally goes up to the base of the castle base of the battlefield. At that point he could only trick Jose into thinking that she's Lucy, and that way Jose deciding not to fire the second Jupiter cannon, and that way her being able to save the fairy tale skill members as well as the fairy tale skill, so that she could only buy more than enough time for the fairy tale skill members to heal up and for Master Macro to get back his get back this precise magic and all that so that at that point she could really appreciate so that at that point by the time she would be also planning to not only trick Jose but eventually she would be planning that way to eventually for Nora to end up in the precise palace or mansion of Lucy's father. And basically that way to learn the truth as to why exactly Lucy's father all of a sudden right now wants Lucy back so the training. It's also basically one of Mira intent, and the other intent would be for Mira to basically to also trick Lucy's father as well, and basically for either as if no matter what the intent of Mira's father of Lucy's father is basically so for her to totally put on a fake act that is she's totally agreeing to whatever it is, and basically that way to for Mira to totally trick Mira to totally trick Lucy's father, and once again escaping from the home of Lucy, and basically so that she could only return back to the fairy tale skills, so that by then the fairy tale skills might have been able to gain back their health and recover, and basically macro version might have only by then the fairy tale skill members might have been able to save and get back a lot of master macro not magic and all that this much I'm also trying would be calculating ahead, so that at that point they could actually launch a proper well thought out attack against the Phantom Guild and basically get revenge for the uh, against the Phantom Guild and bring down the Phantom Guild. We'll see this much would be along the line Mara would be totally thinking it's definitely with the friends, and then also maybe Mara would be also thinking along the lines that one through Mara new transformation magic usually it's one Mara gets to the home of Lucy's father, at that point, if Mira is even put into a locked up or an indifferent state, even then Mira would be totally hoping that basically even Mira ending up in such a manner wouldn't even matter to Mira, especially because Mira would be placing that absolute faith and confidence in the fairy tale in that basically by doing that, like the phantom skill not attacking the fairy tale skill anymore, so that like the fairy tale skill would be able to like recover and gain back their strength, and even macro would be back, so that like at that point like they would be able to like only infiltrate into like the precise home of like Lucy's father and save Mira at that point, regardless of his Mira at that point would be in like an emotional state. This much to this great extent that was Mara would have only thought far ahead into like the future, while right now using her brilliant strategy of like her Mara transforming into this especially my Victorian function. So like the my Victorian version right now is that like it's like magic focusing scan and ultimate weapon with of like the parent skill, like this ultimate weapon, this parent skill would be like that have they have right now would be like it would be like the first time like the theoretic skill members would see such a weapon and realizing the fact that like the parent skill of being such an ultimate weapon definitely made the trend because of like that huge sum of like money that like Lucy's father might have paid like the parent skill like considering like they might have bought this like ultimate magical challenge weapon Jupiter with that money. So definitely my consideration able to like definitely my consideration right now with like NASA right now about to find this mysterious weapon. Considering they definitely having it as like ultimate unique magic power would lead to like strategy to like using his magic power to be able to like control like the action control like the body of like another of its target is definitely my conviction. That will be the reason for like Natsu charging towards him to attack him, but like at the same time Natsu punching himself on with like his own hand, like Natsu punching himself like would be happening only due to that body control magic that most likely that the specific person will be having. And I'm considering that person will be most likely the strongest among like the elements of like the kind of the settling members of Hamilton. And I'm considering definitely Natsu might not even recognize this member as well. Element for member is definitely of like trans because definitely members of he might be like the newest recruit of like the trans skin. And I'm considering maybe he might be maybe that even stronger than Jose, especially as of friend. Maybe like even though Jose holds the title of like the third Thailand might have been holding that title for a while. I'm considering like this mysterious person might be like the latest newest recruit of like the Battlefield, and maybe he might be like not only the strongest element for member, but also might be like the strongest member overall in like the entirety of like the Battlefield. He's stronger than even a bit more stronger than Jose. So also definitely not a premium. So like I'm considering especially since like Satu had like a hard time against like even Iron Gajin, who definitely totally think won't be like an element for member of the Battlefield. So like I'm considering like among all the members who are like of like the rank right below like who are not among all those fan guild members who are not senior fan guild members like who are not part of the element for like among all the remaining fan guild members like the strongest might be IFK and it's definitely my favorite. So like I'm still since like Nasu had like a hard time back when Nasu had fought up against like IFK and considering definitely Nasu right now won't be able to like no matter what and how much like power that Nasu brings out and what kind of attack that Nasu right now will be using against like precise mysterious like most likely strongest element for member. I'm going to bring like no matter what Nasu tries like still I'm going to bring like him to win it only or for and defeat Nasu. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring and I'm going to bring it would be only like eventually once like then like senior fairy tale skill members will be showing up that I'm going to bring that precise like possibly strong of like element for member of like the final will be like either defeated or like I'm also bringing their power to be like evenly matched. But like I'm also bringing with like all the remaining element for members possibly being defeated and probably even though they be defeated by like the remaining senior members of like the fairy tale guild. Like at that point, maybe like him deciding to like retreat and escape, and that way like him escaping with like the other possible scenarios that I'm listening on the program of very much is. Live in the very much right now, such like the fairy tale skill members kind of right now saying that basically the panel skill members like don't know the pain of like losing like one of like your comrades like basically while Kana even said that like Kana might have been only remembering of like the it might have been Kana might have been filled with like the memories of while saying that dialogue, Kana might have been only filled with like the memories of the precise sister of Nagmara, whom definitely like the Beritan here has lost. Who, even while she was like the comrade, like a member of the Beritan still might not have died. And that way, like that pain, like basically kind of might have been foundation of it. Like how much like that pain was and how much it affected like Mara to the point that Mara in like the person that causing Mara to like not to like get removed from the position of like senior clerical member as well as like Marat totally not even being able to like possibly definitely not being able to like use any sort of like an intense and for like powerful magic to that which like she might have been until then using to like fight like her not being able to like use of magic without like sacrificing her health ever since like the rest of her sister. So basically that absolute pain and how much like a pain of like losing your their comrade and basically how much that affects like the guild members like basically all that would be what like Anna would be remembering while saying that I know it's definitely going to rain. So like definitely going to remember right now is that like since like Kotamaro is like an element for the member of like the fandom skill like I'm considering he won't be just another element for member like I'm just remember to mention that like Kotamaro would be like even like the strongest among like the element for so content application management, it's definitely one of the impression. So like I was quick, it wouldn't be just like fire manipulation alone. That would be like the only power that Bottomar would be having. It's definitely a good preemption. Bottomar would be like actually hiding his like pro strength. You would be having like all sorts of like unique different kind of like magic. Extremely powerful magic, way more powerful than like the fire manipulation. It's definitely so he might have like also not to like reveal at the time being. It's definitely my preemption. Like I was definitely Nasu right now, definitely about the bring like that was created as like time slots in the short like about to bring it was created like and Nasu like deciding to like not bring out any of the like firepower because of like Automata having like the fire manipulation power like I'm going to bring like Nasu instead trying to like use the strategy of like basically not bringing out any of this like firepower and basically Nasu trying to like physically attack like basically you could physically just like attack like without bringing out his like magic like Nasu trying to like physically attack and defeat like Totamaro's like the scenario that I was bring. Yet like I was bringing possibly for this to be like the point where like that absolute relevance of like that dialogue that Nasu in like the past when Nasu had fought off against like one of his like enemies like that was that dialogue that enemy said about like Nasu having only strength his like magical powers alone and not having trained his like physical strength. Like basically that dialogue I'm about to bring maybe for Nasu to like remember at that point precisely because like I'm about to bring Tomorrow would have definitely trained not only on his like magic but also might have only been well trained in his like physical strength as well. Definitely my level. So like I'm about to bring even in like a physical combat without using magic as well. Nasu not being able to like defeat Tomorrow like the scenario that I'm also maybe at that point like Nasu probably even remembering that dialogue from his like Nasu's enemy from like the past is definitely also like also the scenario that I'm about to bring. So definitely I'm still thinking of my personal impression as for like the Jupiter cannon weapon definitely firing. And I'm about to bring this time I'm about to bring like with like especially with like the entirety of like the remaining fairy tales film members are already totally busy and occupied with like them having to like them having to like fight off on the great number of state army of like the shadow goes like army of like Jose and considering like them not even be able to like get that opening or like a space to like even attempt to like block or stop like that to say like Jupiter cannon magical beast powerful beast. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point like I'm bring like the first with members of only being unable to like do anything at all. But like I'm still thinking about the impression that at that very last second will be precisely when I'm preparing either like and right now both different two possibilities. Either at that by that very last second, a writer's like Jupiter would be about to get fired. Like at that very last second would be precisely when like Mara would be like precisely making it to like the precise thoughts of like the base of like the uh, base of like the castle like base of like the Pantheon. And Joseph straight away seeing Mara and seeing like thinking like Mara is like Lucy and basically just straight away like Joseph straight away at that point itself like stopping like the cannon. So like I was bringing like Jose straight away. So being I was bring maybe like Jose being like totally stopped at that point, like because like he might have not expected like Lucy to like maybe by herself to like after all time like Lucy for herself to like go up to like the base of like the palace guild. It's also like a scenario that I'm going to bring. So like maybe I'm going to bring that way like Jose for temporarily calling off like the Jupiter cannon attack and Jose totally like Mira entering like the base and basically Jose being strict and basically like and at that point like Jose Even at that point, like those are deciding to like still like fire the Jupiter cannon. It's like the scenario that I'm putting, and I'm it will be at that very last second the Jupiter cannon will be about to will be fired, and basically as like the cannon beam would be like almost about to land on like support great number of Fairy Tail members, and like the Fairy Tail still being like at that very last second like the senior Fairy Tail still members including like and like the remaining 200 Fairy Tail still members like by themselves like support them like by themselves like being able to like easily deflect away of stop like that say beam is like the Jupiter beam is like the one possible scenario that I'm looking or like the other possible scenario that I'm looking basically for like Mira to not be able to like make it in time to basically towards like the base of the castle of castle like base of like the fancy. So like at that point like the different definitely not to not being able to like stop Totomaro like and then the as like the beam Jupiter beam would be like sent straight towards like the Peritans, but at that point that's basically exactly the four senior Peritans members stopping like the Jupiter beam. And like from that point on, like the real fight happening, and then the final of the battle, like totally shifting from the very moment. Like initially, definitely, my consideration was shifting one to definitely for like the four senior Peritans members, to, like definitely will be show up and from it will be presented from that point on, and straight away, like the entire tide of like the battle will be only shifting into like the favor of the Heritage Games. It's like from that moment itself, it's certainly like during the scenario, and that emerged on the program.